Hey, welcome back to Programming with Paul. Today I am super excited. We are going to go ahead and create our first Fresh application. So, first, I guess we should describe what Fresh is. Fresh is a web framework that is built by some of the team members on Deno. And the cool part about it is that it really tries to adhere to Island's architecture. Island's architecture is a way to build your applications using progressive enhancement so that static content is server rendered using just HTML and CSS. Now, whenever a user needs to have interactivity that's run on the client, then what the developer can do is create what are called islands. And these islands are a way to write code so that it actually executes the JavaScript on the client, but is not needed for the page to actually run. So that's super cool. That really kind of goes back to using the web platform for what it's good for, which is serving static content. In the last, I don't know, maybe 10 or so years, everybody's gone pretty much all in into client rendered apps, which has really bloated the bundle size of the JavaScript and kind of hindered some performance. So this is like a kind of forgive the pun on words, but a fresh take on use kind of web development. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First place I want to point you to is to the Fresh website. So it is under fresh.deno.dev. And here what we can do is we can go to their docs, and then here you can kind of get an introduction of what Fresh is. You can see that it uses Preact, which is a really lightweight version of React. And we're going to be deploying what we build using Deno deploy. All right, so let's get started. Okay, here, of course, you'll have to have Deno installed. I've already got Deno installed in my system. To figure out how to install Deno, you can go to deno.land, which is Deno's documentation website. So let's go to create a project, and all we really need to do to get our first Deno up and running is to copy this command. So let's go here. I'm going to go ahead and go to my desktop to Deno, and I'm going to paste this in, and I am not going to call it my project, but instead I'm going to call it Deno Fresh Demo. It's going to download the code. It's going to ask us if we want to use Tailwind CSS. Tailwind CSS is a utility-first CSS library. This allows us to use class names instead of writing CSS ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and hit yes, because that's really helps speed up development time here. So we'll say yes, and yes, we want to use VS Code. So let's go ahead and cd into that directory. Cd, we called it Deno Fresh Demo, and then we'll open that up in VS Code. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and see the boilerplate app that they've created. So if we go ahead and type Deno task start, that's their run command. We can see it's now listening on port 8000. So if we go here and we go to localhost port 8000, you'll see their starter app. It's got this is the islands. So if you click this, you can see the count increments and decrements based on the button you press. And so this is the piece that needs that JavaScript interactivity. So let's take a look at the code now. So we can see here that under routes, This is our home page, our home route. And inside of this home route, we have a counter component. Now that counter component is this component here. And so we know that that is an island. So if we look at islands, you'll see that counter component. This counter component then has that P class with the count and also two buttons that live inside the components, because this is going to be a server rendered component because it doesn't have any JavaScript. All it is it's a wrapper around the HTML button element. But the counter actually does have JavaScript because we use React's useState or Preact's useState to know the state of the amount of times that button is pressed. So that's kind of just a quick overview on the starter app. What I'm going to do is we're going to create our own thing. So we're going to delete pretty much all the things that they've got here. That guy, let's go ahead and delete these things. And let's go ahead and start with our own implementation. So here I'm going to delete all of those things here. This is our home page. I'm going to, instead of returning all this, I'm just going to say hello world, just to make sure that it works. So here we can see here, okay, hello world, we're up and running, good. So the first thing I'm going to do is, if we go back to the site, I want to create a header component. That header component is going to have on the right, it's going to have a navigation bar, and on the left it's just going to say fresh demo. So let's go ahead and create our component. Our component's not going to have any JavaScript associated with it, so we'll put it in the components directory. I'm going to call this header.tsx, and here it'll be a functional component, export function, header, and then we're going to return our fragment, and then this will create a header. We're going to create an H1, and then we're going to create a nav, which is an unordered list, and it's going to have a list item. All right. Our header, we want to have a class for it, and this is the Tailwinds classes that we're going to use. And Tailwinds is super interesting, but it's outside of the scope of this video. If you all want kind of a more in-depth look at Tailwinds, leave a comment below, and I can create a video on Tailwinds in the future. Okay, so what we want to do is we want this to have a width of 100 viewport. We want a height of, we'll call it 10 rem, and we want the background to be black. And you see some of the IntelliSense that I'm getting. That's because I have an extension for Tailwinds, which gives us the this Tailwind IntelliSense. It gives us some of the classes that's associated with Tailwind. If you're going to use Tailwind, I highly recommend this plugin. All right, let's go back here. So we have a background of black. We also want the items to have a display flex of inline flex, and we want the items to be justify between. We also don't want it all the way on the left and right side, so we're going to add a little bit of a padding left of 4, and then a padding right of 4 as well. Now in this header one, we want this to say fresh demo, and then here we're just gonna do about as our nav item. So save this, see what we got. Okay, so, oh, silly me, it still says hello world. What's going on? We didn't actually put it into our page. So here, what we can do is let's go ahead and import our header component. So import from /components/header, and then this is our header component. And now instead of hello world, we want to show the header. Save this and take a look. Okay, but where's the text? Oh, wait a minute. We didn't specify. By default, it's using black, and we have a black header. So let's go ahead and change this class to text-white. I also want to make it a little bigger by text to XL. And then this right here will also set to class is text-white. Save this. Okay, there we go. But it's up at the top here. I want to align it on the center as opposed to the top. So let's go ahead and do that. So header, we have a justify between. We can also add items center. Save this. Okay, that's better. Okay, so the next section, what I want to do is I want to create two kind of divs on this white part here. Is I want one div here that's kind of just some text about what fresh is, and then I want to demonstrate a cool thing that fresh has where it intercepts whenever the page is getting loaded, and you can make an HTTP request to fetch data before the page is actually rendered out, which is pretty cool. So here on this right hand side of the screen, I'm going to have an API call to dev.to to get all of my blogs that I've written. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and let's write the left hand side here. So if we go here and we go back to our index page, what I'm going to do is let's create a section. This section, we also want to go across a width of 100 viewport width. And let's create our two sections. One section is going to have a width of 40 width dash 40%. And then the second div is also going to have a class of width dash 40%. And we want this to be inline flex. What else do we want? We want it to be space around, justify around. Excuse me, guys. All right. So for here, I'm just going to do to do Paul's blogs. Then here we are going to, let's go ahead and have an H1. H1, what is fresh? And then have a P tag here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to Fresh's website, look at their docs, and let's just take some of their text here. To do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a const file in static. It's going to be, we'll call this home-content.ts. And here we can just do export const home fresh description equals, okay, there we go. And then on our home page, we can just go ahead and just do home fresh description. Save this. Look here. Okay, there we go. It's got all this there. I'm going to style this a little more. I want this to have a little bit of a margin here off the top. I want a rounded border around it. And I want this to be more of a header text, and I want this to be to have a justify, a text justify around it. So let's go ahead and do that. So the section, what I'll do is inside of the section, I'm going to go ahead and do a margin top of 5 rem. I am going to have, this is going to be rounded for the borders. It's going to have a border 2, and we are going to have a padding inside of it, padding of 4, and this we're going to have a class of text to Excel, and then this we're going to have a class of text dash justify, I think. Yes. Okay. Save this guy. Okay. Yep. This is better. I like this better. Cool. Now, the second part is let's go ahead and let's show this cool thing that Fresh can do. If we go back to the docs page, you'll see this fetching data. Fetching data, we can go ahead and take a look at this bit of code. What we're going to do is we're going to fetch all of the blogs, actually the last 5 blogs that I've written, and render it onto the page. So here we're going to go ahead and create an interface. So I'm going to create a directory here for models, and I'm going to create an interface here. So this will be blog.interface.ts, and then here we're just going to export an interface blog. And since I don't know what that response is going to come back as yet, I'm just going to put a name because I know the blog will have a name. If we go back to our home page, what we can do here is we can do an export. Actually, let's take a look at the documentation. So here is what they're returning out. They have a const for a handler, and this handlers, they're using a handlers type from the Fresh project, and they're using its returning of type user. So ours will be blog, it'll be a blog array. And then they have this async function for the get, which takes in an underscore and a context, CTX. And here they make their fetch call, they check to see if it actually was completed, and then they render it. And then here on the actual page, they have this page props property where they can now get context to whatever they pulled in through this handler. So let's go ahead and let's code that out. All right, so here we'll do an export const handler. And this handlers of type handlers, and we are going to use it as a blog array or null equals, and then this was an async function get, and then this had a underscore and a context, and here it returned, we're just going to do ctx.render, and then we know we're going to do a blog. I'm just going to call it name test. just so I can see something here. Okay, let's go ahead and import these things. No, that's not there. So let's do import from $fresh slash fresh, like this, right? So one thing that I forgot to show is this import map.json. This import map.json is a way to map the dependencies that we're using in our application to their where the code is located on the internet. So Deno is a little bit different than Node in that it doesn't use Node modules. Instead, what it does is it hosts the code up in up in the internet, and then whenever the page runs, then it pulls down the code for that dependency and it stores it on your local computer, which is pretty cool because now we don't have the bloated Node modules folders. And so here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just look at the fresh here, and I believe it was server. Is that right? So import from server.ts. So if we go back here and we look at, we'll do import $fresh slash server.ts. And then here we can say handler, and also we'll need page props. Okay, and then blog is not there, you're there, and now we can import that from the interface that we've created. All right. So here I'm going to do a const URL, and so the URL is going to be https dev.to/API/user name equals Paul Mojica Tech. And here we can just run a simple fetch. So if we do const response equals await fetch URL, okay, and then we can do const blogs equals await resp.json, and then here what we can do is just return this out, return blogs. Okay, and here what we're gonna do is we're just do a console.log blogs, and this blogs is gonna come in here as data, and this data is a page props blog array or null. All right, and then here this is actually not going to be blogs, it's going to be data. Okay. Another cool part about using Fresh is that there's really great tooling integration with VS Code. So I'm going to set a breakpoint here, and I'm going to set a breakpoint here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our debugging tab. We're going to create a launch.json file. And when we do this, since it asks, hey, do you use VS Code? I say, yes, I do. And now I have a Deno integration, which then sets up my JavaScript, my launch.json for me. Here I'm just going to stop this so I can debug. So when we go here, I'm going to set a breakpoint here too. Now, watch when these breakpoints are hit. Whenever we start this, you'll see the breakpoint for the handler is hit before the page actually renders out, which is kind of like what we said, and where it actually fetches the data before it renders the screen, which is cool. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit run. When it runs, here we go. We hit this fetch first. We're going to go ahead and get all our things. Oh, we got an error. So what is this error say? It says unexpected token is not valid JSON. Okay, so let's take a look at that again and see why that came up. So if we run it again, here, what is this response? It's the body and rest.json, and it's saying it's not proper JSON. Let's take a look at why that is. Yeah, it is not proper JSON. Let me make sure so that I am doing my fetch request. So let's go to MDN, and then let's look at fetch. Okay, so the fetch API, okay, it's an async function. You pull that, you get response.body, and then .json is going to be the body. So that looks right. So let's take a look at some example code. Post, I want to do a get headers, then response.json, data, yeah, this all looks okay. So maybe I don't have a correct URL. So let me take a look and make sure my URL is correct. So if I do dev.to-API, let's do /API/ oh, you know what? I think it's articles, username equals Paul Mojica Tech. It is, so I forgot the articles. So silly mistake. This is articles, of course, because we need the resource before we can specify the query param for it. And then let's go ahead and save this and run this again. Okay, go through it. That's better. That's better. Now we have blogs. You can see the different blogs I've written, and then forward, and now the page renders, now that we've gotten the data for it. And so when we do this, there we go. So we just console logged out. We didn't do anything with it because I want to see what the response looks like. So we have a canonical URL. We have an ID. We have a description, created at, comments, published at, slug, social image, tag list, tags, title, article. Okay, URL. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a subset of these things. The things that I really want to show is I want to show what the name is, which the name is actually called, let's see, the name is title. So we're going to change this to title. Title is a string. We want to have the tags, which is going to be a comma separated list. So we'll say it's a string. And then we're going to have, I want the published date, published at, published underscore at, which is a, just make it a, we'll make it a date, we'll make it a string. We'll convert it to a string. And then I also want the social image, so we can show an image for it. Social underscore image string, and we want the description. I think it's called description here. I think that's good for now. Is it called description? Yes, description. Description is a string. Okay, so save this, and then we're going to go back to our index here, and then here is our div class. So what are we going to do here? For our div, what we'll do is we are going to iterate over these blogs. So if we here do return, oh, I'm sorry, not return. We're going to do blogs, data dot map. And then this is going to be the blog, fat arrow, and then we're going to return our fragment. And then this is going to be, let's see, let's just start it with a div, and then this div is going to have a title. So this will be blog.title div blog.description. I called it descriptions. I want to change that to description. So if we go back to blog, we're going to change this to description. And then here, change this to description. Div blog.tags. And then here I also want to show an image. src equals, and then this will be blog.social image. And let's see what else. Let's do this for now and see what we get. Save this, rerun this. I'm going to go ahead and take off my breakpoints here and run. And let's see what we have here. Hey, look at this. We've got all of the things here, which is pretty cool, but it's too long. Let's go ahead, and one thing I want to do is I only want to take the first 5. We can actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and keep them all. But let's go ahead and let's make it a little smaller. So here we're going to do a height of, we'll call it, we'll call it 50 v. Oh, you know what? Do we have a height here? What we'll do is we'll set this height. H is, we know that the header is 10 rem. So let's go ahead and just make this 75 viewport height. And here we're going to say that this has an overflow of scroll. Okay, so we're going to scroll on the overflow. Okay, let's see if this does what we need it to do. It does not, because it goes all the way down. And let's go ahead and inspect this and see what we have here. So we have this section. The section height is 9,000, and that's because we didn't set our height here. I don't see our height being set. So did I not save it is the question, or did I not add it? So this is home. Height is here. Let's refresh this. Save, refresh. Okay, let's see. Yep, that height is smaller. And now it's doing that. Okay, so that's better. That is smaller there. What I want to do is I also, so just in case anybody missed it, what happened is since I'm debugging, it doesn't do the auto refresh. So I had to actually refresh manually by running this rerun, that restart the application, the debugging process. Okay, so far everything that we've done has been static. And so it can be rendered on the server with no JavaScript enabled. So what I want to do instead now is I want to create some interactivity on the client here. So we're going to create our first island. For this, it's a simple demo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a click handler for this about text here. And when we click on it, we're just going to show something underneath that says, you have, to learn more about Fresh, please visit the Fresh website. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So here, if we go back to our header, you'll see this nav is here. I'm going to remove this nav. So if I just go ahead and delete that guy out, and I'm going to go to my islands directory, and I'm going to create a folder. Or I'm sorry, a file. This file is going to be called, we'll just call it navlist.tsx. And then inside of here, we're going to do an export function. And then this will be nav list. And then we're going to return this guy, do our fragment. And then this is just going to be a button. This button is going to say about, and then let's save this, refresh this, and let's see what we got here. So if we go back here and add the nav list to our header, nav list, like this, save this. And now let's reload this guy and then refresh this guy. Okay, so we have an about down here. So I put it in the wrong place. It needs to be actually inside of here, but we know that it's at least there. So save this, and let's see, what are we gonna do? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and do const equals use state false, and this is going to be whether or not we show that little menu item underneath. So this will be show learn more, comma toggle learn more. Okay, and then on this button, we're going to go ahead and create a click handler. And then this is just going to say toggle learn more, the opposite of show learn more. Okay, oops, this import's in the wrong place. We're going to import from preact/hooks. And then underneath here, we just want to create a div. And then inside of this div, we're going to say return show learn more and, oops, not return. We're just going to do show learn more and div. Let's just do div and div to learn more. Visit the ahref equals https fresh.deno.dev fresh website. Okay, save this guy, and then refresh. Let's see what this does here. Refresh. Oh, of course, we can't see the button because we need to set the text on this button. So class equals text dash white, save, reload, and there. So there's about, clicking on it. Let's see, we also probably need to set the text on this, but let's make sure we can see it. Header, button, div. Okay, nothing. So I've seen this in the past where if you do an import like this, you have to stop it. And then, well, first let me go ahead and let's add the class here. So class equals text dash white, and then let me run this from our command line here. So this is Deno task start. Oops. Islands must export a default component. Okay, so islands, these need to be exported as a default. Okay, which makes sense, right? Because pages need to be defaults, so islands should also be defaults because they're kind of an entry point whenever you go into the application. So here that means we change this to remove our brackets there. And now let's see if this, yep, okay, so now it restarted. Looks like it's good to go. Click on this. There we go. There's some interactivity. I don't like how that is, so what I'll do is I'll move it all the way over. So nav list, this is going to be div. Let's take a look and see. So copy, I'm sorry, not copy, inspect. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna say this, I just want to see position absolute. Then we're gonna say right would be 2 rem. Okay, that's better. And then, so let's go ahead and put that here. So here, this button class is going to be absolute, and then right dash 2 rem. Okay, and this we also want an absolute here. Actually, let's do this. Save this guy, and then let's see what we have here. It's refreshed. Okay, and now that's going on top of it. So what we'll do is we will just move this underneath. So this will be a absolute. Let's actually just do a transform. So I'm not sure how to do the transform here. So if I go to Tailwind, and then let's just look at their docs, and let's take a look at transform. Transform, and then this will be, I want to transform origin top. I want to do, let's see, origin top. I want to translate, I want to do a translate. So transform, translate. Here we go. This is what we want. So translate Y 1 pixel. We want to translate Y. Let's do 2 rem. So let's do translate dash Y dash 2 rem. Okay, let's see what this shows now. Go back here. Oh, I put it in the wrong place. So I put this on the button, silly. We're gonna go ahead and put it here on the class. Okay, so about, to learn more, visit the Fresh website. There we go. All right, now for the moment of truth, let's take a look and let's see how this performs on Lighthouse. So if we go here, we're doing desktop. Let's go ahead and test it on Lighthouse. You know what? I don't know if this will actually run the Lighthouse score correctly because a lot of times I'll have to deploy it before that happens. Oh, no, it runs. Okay, so 92, it's a pretty good Lighthouse score. Now let's go ahead, if you really want to see something cool, let's go ahead and let's set our Chrome. Let's turn JavaScript on Chrome here. So if we go here and we go to privacy and security and we go to, I want to say it's security, and then show DNS, manage certificates, Google Advanced. Let's see, where is that? I honestly can't remember where to turn it off. So let's just Google it. Turn off JavaScript, Chrome. Command Shift P will do it. So if we do Command Shift P and then JavaScript, disable JavaScript, boom. Okay, so now JavaScript's disabled. If we hit refresh, you'll see everything still works. The only thing that doesn't work is I click on here, nothing happens because this was an island, right? But that right there doesn't work. But if I go ahead and Command Shift P, JavaScript, enable JavaScript, and refresh, we click on this, now it's working again. But the only thing that didn't work was this part because that's the island. So super interesting, and I think it's super powerful, the implications of this. Now the last thing we want to do is let's go ahead and deploy this using Deno deploy. So to do that, what I want to do is I want to make this I want to go ahead and make this a Git project, and I'll push it up to my GitHub. So if I go to Git init, and then let me go ahead and create this project. So this will be new, this will be YouTube Deno dash fresh. Okay, then let's push this up. So we'll do here git remote add origin, this guy, and then we're gonna do git push origin. Actually, I don't like how we created a master, so let's do git checkout dash b main, Then we're gonna commit all these files, initial commit, then git push origin main. Okay, pushed it right up there. And now all we need to do is if we go to, let's refresh this, make sure it came up. Okay, it did. Now let's go ahead and let's go to Deno.deploy. Oh, it's actually Deno.com. To use Deno.deploy, and then we can go ahead and click on deploy, sign in. I've already got one here, so I want to do a new project. Okay, select our GitHub repository. This was called YouTube Deno Fresh. Production branches main. Then let's see, we want this to be automatic. And then we're going to use main.ts. We're going to link. Okay. So let's just call this my fresh Deno. Then link it. Okay, it's all done. Now, if we go to our deployments, you can see we have deployed our app. So if we click on there it is. There's our Deno app. We can go ahead and we can run our Lighthouse score against it again. There you go, 94. There you go. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a super fun video for me to record. If you guys make sure you subscribe, leave comments. All right, until we see you next time.